All right, we're here with Brian from Parley Labs. Super psyched to share the Parley Labs story. First, Brian, welcome to the show, dog.
Thanks, Nick, for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm ultra excited. So I wanted to start at my beginning with you and then go back further. So when we met was sometime September of 2020, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're in 2022 now. September 2020, when I had just discovered helium and I was looking for a place to buy parts and discovered serendipitously that Parley Labs was also in San Diego and almost right up the street from me. And I think my first kind of customer service interaction with you is I bought a piece. We might have, whatever it was, like a 2287. We might have talked on Discord and you're like, hey, dude, I'm just going to drop this off. That's easier than mailing it. Do you remember those first orders?
Yeah. And I think even every order after that, I ended up dropping off because it was the same distance drive to go to the post office than it was to go to your shop.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think I've ever received a mailed. I might have received one mailed Parley Labs order, and the rest of them just got dropped off.
Yeah.
So that was my beginning, and it was super cool. It was super cool to have what would end up being one of the main helium suppliers in my same city, and end up being a super cool guy. And I think that was the second part. Was maybe the first or second time you dropped something off, I started asking you a bunch of technical questions. I'm not an engineer. That's your background, and you were super kind and generous with your time and said, oh, well, look at this and try this and do that. And you also said something that stuck with me. You're like, dude, don't worry. You're trying to learn something that takes people 20 years to learn. If you don't get it in 5 minutes, just keep going. It was a super encouraging thing to say. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad I was of some help.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was hugely helpful. So that was my beginning with you. I think we've sent a ton of stuff your way for antennas and the rest of it. I'd always recommend Parley Labs as a great source for helium. But now let's go back before that and give folks an idea of maybe how you came into helium and what your background was before you found helium.
Right. So let's see. I am an engineer by trade. I used to work for the Navy here in San Diego for about 15 years now. And so, integrating sensors and everything like that was just what I did. And I've been involved in crypto for probably since 2016 or so. And I saw helium. I think it was a Facebook ad. I know they were pumping those out for a while. And I was like, oh man, this company looks interesting, but I wasn't sure if it was a scam or not. So I did a little digging, looked at their original products. They've been in the IoT space for 10 years prior and had investments. And so I just wanted to make sure, am I putting money into something that is going to turn out to be something in a few, years? So I took my chance. I was like, hey, okay, I pre-order a Hotspot. I don't know if it's going to actually deliver. They make a lot of promises. They've got these roadmaps and, ICO scans and all like that. It's like, okay, well, let's see. Their history shows that they could probably do something. So, after delays, they delivered a Hotspot. There was no blockchain yet. It wasn't mining anything yet. So they're like, hey, if you connect it, you can see if it connects to the network, but you're not earning anything yet. So I was like, oh, okay, great. At least
that is awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. They delivered something. And what I noticed about the Helium team, which really kind of attracted me even further, was all timelines get delayed, but they communicated very well and they kind of delivered on what they were saying they did. They made pivots and they did all kinds of stuff, but they essentially would continue to deliver. And that constant work effort really stood out to me. And so, they finally got the blockchain piece working, and I was like, oh, Claire, I'm earning coins and tokens and everything like that, which had no value because there's nowhere you can trade it or do anything like that. And after a while,
when was that? What was that? A month and year? Was it 2019 maybe?
Yeah, that was probably, I think 2019. It's such a blur now, but
Sure.
I think it was 2019. And it was like a few months into the hotspots running that they got the proof of coverage working and tokens being distributed. And then there were only like certain exchanges, like Chinese exchanges, that had the tokens at that time too, like soon after they launched it. But at that point, I really saw that the team was working really hard and engaged with the community. And so at that point, I started to get really involved in the community, talking with other people. And And that's kind of where I started. I came out community member, like really believed in the project, just trying to learn as much about it as I can and see how I apply my engineering background and crypto understanding to seeing how I can help. And so from there, I saw other engineers trying to actually use the network that they were deploying these gateways for.
Yep.
And there weren't a lot here stateside. So a lot of them were buying these $15 development boards from China. These were the ℧ cube cells.
Yep.
And
I remember those. Yeah.
yeah, and so, they would buy them and pay $20 or $30 for the shipping and, complaining that it took 2 to 3 weeks. So I kind of just threw together a web store on a blog that I had kind of laying around. And I ordered some cube cells and said, hey guys, like, let me try to help you guys out, get these here, ordered, like 20 or 30 of them. And everybody was really happy that they can go through me. I had family and friends kind of laughing at me, like shipping out of my trunk when I go on in between taking my kids to the park and stuff like that. And they're like, you are working really hard selling these little boards. And, they didn't see like the bigger picture, right? And I was like, I'm just here to help everybody kind of
Yep.
utilize the network and kind of take this thing to the next step.
And did you have a business background at the time? Had you started a bunch of businesses before and run them, or was this kind of one of the first runs into business or online business or anything?
I've had a little bit, but not very much. I used to do photography and I had a photography business for a little bit. I did a little bit of engineering consulting on the side, but nothing at the scale that we've kind of reached to this day. So, I was running things out of my garage. I set up a shop on my website, and we figured out everything as we went along. So Google searches here, talked to some people there. You were honestly a big help in like understanding like logistics and how to run shipping and all that other stuff. So I really appreciate your help and input there when we first started. I remember asking you about like, who do I talk to like reduce my shipping costs and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. So it's always nice to be helpful. So let's see. It starts off, you're shipping out of your garage, you're shipping out of the trunk of your car, like, usual stuff. And then let's see, when did it really start to grow, or when did you start to think like, man, maybe I start paying attention to this? Because if we fast forward to now, I mean, this is your full-time gig. You have now, you're no longer doing your old job. You basically walked away from probably something you could have retired from, and you started this thing. When did you start thinking like, maybe I should pay more attention to this?
So as I brought on more products and stuff to, as a community, we'd say, oh, you should list this stuff on your site. I would just keep on growing the site and going out of the garage. And actually for about 6 months, instead of quitting, I kind of brought on people to help me. And I brought on eventually 6 partners who, we're all family guys. I kind of convinced them that helium was here to stay. And slowly, one by one, they were like, oh my God, this is cool. There's something here. And over those 6 months, we kind of grew the team and the support. And so it wasn't until I think June of last year, we all were like, decided we had to, take this on full time. I'm pretty risk averse. Yeah. So like we try to do both at the same time for as long as we could. And then at some point it was not sustainable. So we had to focus on this full time.
You're right. Cause when it's so funny how you approach stuff. As I hear you telling the story, like total engineer, when you first see it, is like, okay, let me look at this thing, and let me look at this thing, and let me look at this thing, and add these things up. And if they don't add up to what they're not supposed to add up to the 7th decimal point, like I'm not doing it. But you did take the kind of the first risk and you bought one hotspot at first, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or did you buy a couple? Okay.
Yeah, I bought one.
So you buy one
first.
hotspot? Yeah. And did you have the first hotspot in San Diego, or one of the first ones, right?
I wouldn't say the first. I think one of the first 20, one of the first 15 or so in San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did you meet Paul, who the Tourmaline wireless guy? Or was that just through Discord?
It was Slack at that time. So I think
it was before Discord.
It was before Discord. It was Slack. And I met Paul through Slack, and kind of like everybody in the community at the time, we were all trying to figure out what what was going on and what was what, how to
Yeah.
best utilize this. And he was very, very helpful in kind of in terms of like the antenna stuff. I have some background with some RF and antenna stuff, but that is by far not my core focus.
Right.
So I learned quite a bit from him. He's great. We still keep in touch today, and he's and yeah, he was always great, kind of helping us understand the really, really technical like components of things.
Yeah, he was like my secret weapon in the early days. And in fact, if you're watching this, you should go look at Tourmaline Wireless. I think they still have their blog up. And he was the guy who helped me literally put together my first off-grid hotspot. We put it together in his garage, and I just watched him do it. He was super, super generous, super helpful. And I remember telling him, like, dude, you should write this up, and you should, tell people how to do it. And that's just not who he is or what he's into.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very helpful dude, super generous guy. Yeah, so I got Tourmaline Wireless. Okay, so you meet him, you're kind of meeting the members of the community, and on Discord, you're super nerdy. I remember when I came into Helium, you were super active and really helpful. And that's something I think Helium has worked pretty hard to demonstrate through leadership, is making sure that people are really helpful, and that we, as to the best of our ability, we're kind of helpful first and then maybe critical ninth or something, right? There's for a long time, it's been a reasonably pleasant Discord to be in. And I remember, especially early on, Capcom would answer my questions. I'd ask something, and he would jump in and be like, "Hey, don't worry about it. We've all been there. Here's how to do it." I was like, "Man, that helped convince me that Helium was something big." Okay, so back to you. So you got these 6 partners, six guys, family guys, whatever. And by family guys, you mean people who have family, not your family.
Yes, yeah, they are colleagues for a while, friends for a very long time, people I trust,
Yep.
and who are they share the same vision as I do. So we, yeah, and so as I brought each of them in at different points in time, they helped support like shipping and all other pieces like that.
Yep. I mean, it is, as people listen to this, like you're literally living the American dream. It's so awesome to hear this story from you. Is that you're like coming from like a regular job and like, okay, I'm going to start a business, and it gets bigger and bigger. And then when would you say like you felt the first big wave hit where you started thinking, holy shit, I'm going to have to learn something different or do something different to handle this level of business?
Honestly, I think it was from the very beginning. When I
Really?
started
Okay.
shipping the antennas, so we became a rack bar pretty early on. That's when we started getting the
A rack what?
value added reseller. So it's
Okay.
basically a
Yep.
partner with them.
Yep.
And that's when we met, right? When I started selling more components and having to buy stuff from rack. All of that stuff was new to me. I didn't know shipping logistics. I just know Amazon. So, um,
Right. Huh.
starting from the beginning, I was cutting boxes, making custom boxes to just ship these antennas, and it was not efficient, not smart at first. And as we grew, we learned how to better efficiently do it, and I brought in people to help with that.
Yep.
But yeah, like from day one, it was just constantly learning and adapting and trying to figure out how to at least break even. And even to this day, we're still learning every day. We make lots of mistakes. We made a ton of mistakes in the first year and a half that we're still kind of working through right now. But I think we've kind of built really strong relationships with partners and understand who good partners really are.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a curious thing. So maybe we start with kind of the first big, I don't know if it's mistake. It's like when an ecosystem is growing this fast, or a system is growing this fast, there's just bumps that happen. There's no way around them. And I think that's a really important thing for folks in general to understand with any business, whether it's Helium or anything, is that this crypto thing and business is moving so fast that there is not going to be a single project that gets anywhere close to everything right. And so it sounds like your first big kind of bump was the Parley or what's not with Parley, it was the Nebra orders. Is that right? Or was there something before that? I don't think so.
Um, so I want to say first that the Nebra partnership was not a mistake. It was what was right at that time, and
Totally. Yeah.
and so let's kind of go back to, okay, we're shipping rack antennas, we're shipping rack parts and stuff like that, and That was when third-party hotspots just got approval.
Yeah.
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 And, I think DIYs were like, okay, DIY is no longer. So what are we going to do next? How do we expand this ecosystem? So
Yep.
the third party was approved, and we were not looking to make or be a part of that, really. Like, our goal and our mission from day one has always been to help grow the community and the network,
Yep.
whether that's through help educating people with the right sensors or getting people what they need. And so at that time, a couple people in the community, and in Helium, they didn't want to be distributors, right? They didn't want to be involved in any of that. They just wanted to help
Yep.
facilitate the growth and the development of the
Yep.
network. So some people introduced at that time was 𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀𝗁 and Nebra were the only two, because RAC had some exclusive deal. So we
Yep.
came in. We were introduced, and they said, "Hey, how would you guys like to help distribute?" Because at that time we were the only, I guess, helium-based, focused store,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
grown out of the community. So I said, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
more than happy to help." At that time, everybody was, we're doing pre-orders. This is when we're going to ship. So we came in and said, "Okay, we're going to help with the distribution. We don't have it all solved, but we're here to help in any way we can." And so, for whatever reason, at that time, we ended up going solely with Nebra.
Yep. And let me paint the picture too for folks who weren't around during that time. And I'm thinking this is early 2021-ish, maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so the conversation started in late 2019, probably in September.
Right.
And it didn't...
2020.
Sorry, 2020. Yeah, 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the sales or the launch or marketing efforts didn't start until early 2021. So around January, February timeframe. Yeah.
And at that time, I remember, because I put in an order for an outdoor Nebra, the talk of the community was that Nebra was going to be absolutely the best, highest quality hotspot out there. They were the team that were going to be able to deliver. And I also remember that at the time, 𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀𝗁 was like, "Ooh, I don't know about those guys." It's funny how much it's changed since then. But at the time, kind of this was the public opinion, was that Nebra is going to knock it out of the park. Have you seen their enclosures? Like, I bought one of their enclosures. Everyone's like, "This is the best thing since sliced bread." So when we kind of come to where we are now, which is now early 2022, and people are like, "Oh, what happened with Nebra?" There was a time when they were the golden child, and working with them was like, that must have been kind of a top shelf feeling.
It was, like the conversations were much more, I don't want to compare the two, but at that time, the conversations were fluid with Nebra. Things seemed to be much clearer in terms of, yes, we have. So when we started our orders, it was based on Nebra telling us, "Okay, you need to cut off your orders at this time," as we reported the numbers to them. And they based it, from what we understand, or what they're telling us, is that they based it on how much inventory of the supplies that they needed to order were placed with the vendors.
And were they pretty surprised, or I guess, were you surprised? Like, when the hotspot orders started coming in, was it more or less, or about what you had expected it to be?
Oh, I was blown away. We knew that there was demand there. But I could not fathom like how big that demand was. And so as we were trying to manage, so as we grow our business, not only are we growing faster than anything, the systems that we have are kind of like outgrowing themselves as the demand grows too.
Yep.
Yeah. And part of the thing that becomes challenging is because we're in a crypto adjacent space, we have to, processing is kind of a sensitive area. So we had to make sure that we didn't rely on any one processing. So generally most people would use like a Stripe or, Shopify payments for the payments.
And when you're saying processing, you're talking about credit card processing.
Yeah. So our thing was like, hey, we want to make sure we make this as easy as possible for customers to also be protected. So my big thing has always been, we don't want to go crypto only unless we have to, absolutely have to. And because, here, not everybody is in the crypto space, and we're trying to get people kind of introduced to it, right? And bring them into the
Yeah. And
Helium
hang on a
community.
second,
And
Brian. Let me put a pause on that because I've started a bunch of businesses online, and processing is one of the, like, you do it once and then it's usually done. And when you do it, it's such a pain in the ass. And for the normal person who comes along, it seems like it should be easy. Like, they pay with their credit card and their money goes into your bank account, but that is 100% not what happens, right? They pay with their credit card, that goes into the processor's account. The processor might hold that for a day or two. They might hold that for longer, depending on what they think you're going to do with it or whatever it is they feel. Um, if you want to give a refund, sometimes that'll be a short time and the customer gets it back right away. And sometimes it'll be a long time and they get back in 10 days, 2 weeks, 6 months. Like, it's whatever the processor wants to do. And because there are so few of them that kind of do it at this scale, they don't give a shit if you live or die. They're not motivated by your success, which is not to say they're not bad. Crystal King uses Stripe. It works really well for us, but man, I want to make sure that it is not underestimated the kind of size of the size and the impact of the problem of finding someone who will process credit card payments is for any crypto adjacent business, any
yeah,
business.
so if any business in this space needs advice or help on that, reach out to us. We could walk you through it and help you not make the same mistakes we did. We'd be more than happy to help, especially anything that can help grow any businesses kind of getting into the Helium space. But yeah,
Great.
so that causes friction when we have orders kind of like pending for so long of a time. So we understand the
Oh, that's a
frustrations
good point. Yeah. So let's dive into that, because I've never dealt with orders pending for a long time. I've always sold stuff that I shipped within a couple of days, but
Mhm.
you guys are selling stuff that didn't ship for months in some
Yeah, almost a
cases,
year. Yeah.
almost a year. And so what was the process like? How did that? What was that conversation like with a processor or with the customers? Either one.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, most of the a lot of these funds are held, like you said, in what we call an escrow. The processors hold the
Mm-hmm.
funds until we ship. And so because we have multiple processors, it becomes challenging to it becomes a manual process, so it takes a lot longer
Yep.
to do it. And so because so the first mistake, we made a few mistakes here, right? Was we took full payment upfront, and we didn't know any better because Shopify
Which
was set
wouldn't
up, and we're
normally
like,
be a mistake. Like,
yeah,
that's how most people do business. Okay.
yeah. And in hindsight, we would take deposits or take something else, right? We wouldn't have done
Right.
this if we kind of knew what we know now.
And
Um,
this may be private, so just tell me that it's not something you're going to talk about. But can you give me an idea of the scale of payments? Were you dealing with like $10,000 worth of hotspots sold, or 100,000, or somewhere close to either of those, or somewhere that's like, no, I've never seen this kind of money before in my life?
so I can't tell you the number, but
Right.
it's on the I've never seen this amount of money in my life. So I
Right. So you're
mean,
like a
one
normal
thing,
dude selling
yeah,
antennas, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, that is a giant number. Okay.
yeah. And so um, part of it is we're self-funded, and we have funds released because we've been shipping and doing other sales, right? So the hotspots
Mm-hmm.
is a big piece of it, but it's not the only piece, and that's how we've grown our business: sensor sales, sensor consulting, and stuff like that. That's how we actually grow the business aside from
Mm-hmm.
the hotspot stuff.
Yep.
And so the the as we get shipments delivered, then the processors release our funds.
Okay. Dang. So they're holding what is definitely not $10,000. It's probably way more than that. And anyone can make a guess depending on how many hotspots are in the network, but it's not a small number. They're holding a giant chunk of money that you don't control. They're probably earning interest on it because that's how they roll. And there's nothing you can do. You're just like sitting there like, shit, I can't use the money because I don't have it, but it's somewhere else. The customer can't use it because they don't have it either.
Yeah, and and for us,
What a shit
I
show.
get why they're doing it, and
Yep.
it's to protect them and the customers, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually it worked out that um, it didn't have an impact on us operationally. Well, it does have an impact in terms of how do we manage the refunds, because that becomes
Okay.
what our customers feel as a frustratingly long time. So
Sure. Yeah.
so we've been hiring, as many people as we can on the customer service side to help facilitate these refunds.
Yep.
because in line with our mission, we want to make sure that people either get their money back because they asked for it, or we get them their miners as fast as possible. So,
Sure.
and it's a slow process, but we're starting to make some headway there and making some progress.
Okay, so that, I mean, I think we probably don't need to go through that too much more, but that is like in broad strokes what happened with a lot of hotspots, a lot of companies, and Parley was just one of them. Was that there was this insane demand. There wasn't a way that anyone had figured out to do the processing of it. I remember, I think Bobcat was taking like crypto only. I forget how I bought one. I don't think I bought one from them. I think they just sent me one. But I remember it was
Yeah,
like a giant pain in the ass, and everyone was complaining about it. You had to whatever, make 7 steps to do a payment. And we're all, of course, used to Amazon where we hit a button and whatever we want arrives on the door the next day. So this is a
yeah.
totally different thing. Okay, so you get into sensors, you sell hotspots, giant amount of money, huge pain in the ass because Nebra ends up basically not being able to deliver almost anything they had initially promised. Is that right, or did I get some of that wrong?
So they did ship for us almost through batch 3. We're still waiting for the final batch 3 units to ship to us.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
unfair because I got mine. I think I was in batch 2 or something. I got like one. I got an
yeah.
outdoor unit,
Hmm.
and it was maybe, I forget. It was maybe 6 months later, 3 months late. It wasn't that late. It wasn't like a year or anything. Maybe it wasn't even a
Yeah.
month late. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a few months late. Yeah, a lot of them were a few months late. We did ship
Hmm.
through our batch 3, but a significant number of orders were batch 4 and 5, which what we call is we're refunding it in order to, and well, so the reason why we had the refund is that Nebra uh, developed 𝗪𝘁 version, which is a different than original developed Nebra miner.
Hmm.
And because of the risk, because of our banking partners, we couldn't just deliver those ones in place of what customers had purchased originally.
You couldn't just switch out the product.
Um, yeah, because I think there's some risk, and also because of the delay, because we had no idea,
Hmm.
we don't know when those are going to ship.
Right.
So we had to make the hard decision with our banking partners that when those become available to us, we will make them available to our customers,
Yep.
or we make whatever we can get at whatever time available to our customers, and that's what we're in the middle of doing right now. So
Right. Okay. I don't
refund
want
all
to
of
dig into that too
those.
much. Yep.
Yeah,
Good.
I was saying, we're refunding all of those, making whatever available to customers, and then whatever becomes available through Nebra, we make available to our customers.
Okay. Cool. So that was, I mean, that as deep and, and as wide and as crazy as that shit show was with Nebra, I think that covers it in pretty broad strokes and makes it pretty
Hmm.
understandable, if not still frustrating for all parties, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if you're cool with this one, but did you end up making any money, or did the refunds cost you a bunch, or was like all that logistic stuff, did that set you back? Like where did that put Parley Labs?
Oh, it set us back. Credit card fees are still paid for; those are non-refundable. Um, but overall, I think we're in a good position um, to continue to, facilitate these to help the community grow.
Totally.
Um, and I'm really proud of the team that kind of came together. Just to kind of give you some insight, like when the first Nebra unit shipped, they had like loose parts in them. I don't know if you
Oh
remember
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And we were small. We were smaller at the time. We're still small, but
Mhm.
there was maybe 7 or 8 of us, and our thing was these customers have been waiting for so long, and we had two choices: ship them back to Nebra to have them fix it, or call our family to come in, open up these boxes, and open every unit up, fix them, and then ship them out to the customers and try to get them out the next day. So I think it was
Dang.
like 400 units at that time, and there was like 8 of us. And so we decided we didn't want our customers to wait another, 3 or 4 weeks. And we called, our brothers, our dads, sisters. We're like, hey, come in. We really need your help right now. We need to get these out tomorrow. And a couple people came in and helped us, and we worked through the nights. Bought electric screwdrivers to make things more efficient. Bought a bunch of electric static discharge pads to make sure we didn't ruin anything.
Yep.
um, you know, had the
Oh, it makes me
engineers
tear up,
revamp it.
man. That's just the fucking American dream.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so we fixed them and we sent them out, and we really focused on how do we make sure that the experience that our customers have is good. That comes to troubleshooting, technical support, troubleshooting. We try to help as best we can with what we have.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and we're growing that today. So we really want to make sure that we help the community, exactly what you do, all the help that you do for the community, we that stuff helps us too.
Yeah, yeah. And we've talked a bunch about how do we figure out a way for 𝗪𝗁 and Parley Labs to work together. And I think we're going to figure something out in the long run that's really useful for the community. And I think it's a fun. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys, however we sort it out. Okay, so that brings us up to kind of today, where it transforms. I mean, in a year, from you throwing stuff up, like literally driving my order down the street and dropping it off, to that's that's not going to happen anymore. I mean, maybe it will, but to this kind of much bigger operation. I guess the first question is, how big is it now? How many people are working at Parley?
So, including part-time contractors,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're about 24.
Okay. Yeah, that's not I mean, depending on where you sit, that's a pretty good size operation, because you got to manage all those people.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then, yeah, and you've done a super good job about I don't know, just being like a level-headed engineer and saying, okay, here's a problem, let's see how we can fix it. Is there anything where you felt so far you're like, man, I don't think I can ever fix that problem? Or is everything so far seem like at least you could accomplish it?
So I'm human. I have my doubts. It's been an absolute roller coaster over the last,
Yep.
over the last 8-9 months.
Yeah.
But what I realize is when you kind of start communicating better with your community, start communicating better with your team, and leveraging the different skill sets of our partners and our teams,
Yep.
I feel like, there's no issue you can't resolve. So right now, the issue, we're working as hard as we can to resolve it, and I'm very confident we'll get through everything, so that we can, continue to focus on our mission, right? Grow the community, grow the network.
Yeah, I am also confident you're going to solve that. I'm super confident. So once you get through this piece here with this refund and kind of figuring out all that bump in the road, what do you see? Let's talk a little bit about and zoom way out. What's next for Parley and for maybe the Helium community as a whole? Where do you see both of those things going?
We would love to bring more people in the community on board also. What I notice is our marketing person, 𝗵𝗫, she actually was the first person from the community that we hired. And she called us out for, I think it was a terrible drawing that we did. I announced the winner at like 3 a.m. because I was like the only free time I had. And she comes in. It was on
Twitter, right? You had like some drop or something, and okay.
She came into our Discord and she was like, "What kind of company is this? Blah 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 blah." And then I responded to her, and she came back with a list of, "Hey, I recommend you guys do this." And a lot of the community members have done this, and this is why I love the Helium community, because there are those who just have nothing but negative things to say, but there are so many people who want to help you, and have great advice and great suggestions. Sometimes we just don't have the resources to do it all. So, we're looking to bring more people on to help kind of serve this mission that we have. But beyond that, I see network usage growing. So we're seeing a lot more people who are looking to deploy sensors and utilize the network, because now the coverage is so great that it's just a no-brainer to, deploy, whether it's you want to do leak detection sensors for your bunch of buildings so that, you reduce any risk of floods. We're seeing customers reach out to us to help them either identify different types of sensors, or even help with the onboarding process. Logistically, I think we're becoming a strong partner to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the onboarding process of getting a sensor onto the Helium network and actually using the data, like seeing the data so you can use it, is not to be underestimated. It is not plug and play yet, right?
Yeah, and we're working to try to help that process be simpler. And I think that's one of the
Right.
areas of focus that we're looking at. Um, and on top of just educating small to medium businesses who, or even larger organizations, try to utilize this network now that they kind of see it on their
Mm-hmm.
horizon.
Yeah, yeah. So let's kind of fast forward maybe 2 years, 2 to 5 years. It's pretty darn murky what's going to happen. But do you have any kind of predictions or estimations or ideas of where helium as a network is going to go and how it's going to get used?
I'm really bad at predictions, but I do see
Okay.
the direction things are going in. And
Yeah.
my prediction is that there's so many vested players that are working on the same mission
Mm-hmm.
that I think Helium will be a very, very strong and robust network that will be ran by a lot of people who have a vested interest to make sure that it stays up and running. Um, just the how many people are invested in trying to make it better, smoother, um, and just the amount of collaboration that we're seeing across the network is just amazing. So 5 years from now, there's the LoRaWAN network, there's a 5G network. Who knows where those will go? But I think we'll see some form or shape of this kind of being utilized by all kinds of businesses and
Yeah.
individuals.
Are you guys going to sell 5G stuff, or is that top secret shit that you're not going to talk about?
I
I
mean,
don't know if
everybody's
you are or not.
interested in that. So we don't have, we're interested. We're looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't share about specifics that we have yet
Sure.
because there's nothing solid. But like everybody else, we're looking into that space too.
You're seeing the demand, and you're going to figure out how if or how you're going to service it. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean,
That's
if you
reasonable.
just
I mean,
think about sensors and IoT in general, right? Some things work good on the Helium LoRaWAN network. Some things will work better on the 5G network. We're here to kind of service the needs of, we just want to bring value to businesses in the community, and I see a lot of opportunity in different verticals for that.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool to have. I don't think there's any, I don't know, like bigger American business doing the same thing that you're doing, or any business worldwide that's doing what Parley Labs is doing as far as helping the helium community or serving the helium community. Is Yeah, if there is, then let's not say them because they're a competitor of yours, and I want you guys to win. Um, let's see. So I think kind of winding way back is when you talk about sensors and helping people, is you had done a project fairly early on with, what was it, smoke detection sensors for wildfires in San Diego, something like that.
Yeah, so wildfires are a big problem here in Southern California, and
Mm-hmm.
Helium, when they first tried to start pushing sensor usage and development, had a helium, I think it was a helium hacks competition on Hackster.io.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually worked with Paul from Tourmaline. He helped
Yep.
me with like he provided some of the outdoor solar kit for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came and I put together a kit to, detect particulate matters. And the
Mm-hmm.
project was kind of based around, hey, we had a bunch of these helium sensors to kind of detect temperature and heat or smoke. It could be a way for us to have a large scale smoke detection and fire prevention system. And so that was like my first jump into developing for the Helium network. And it
Yep.
actually is kind of what led into the Cube Cell and the web store and everything like that.
Yeah. 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 It's super cool. So I remember looking at it, being like, "Yep, I'm never gonna be able to do that. That's not that's outside of my expertise or frankly interest." But it's super cool to see you guys just getting so geeky on it and then doing a
Yeah.
good job.
Well, I love
I
that stuff.
think,
I really love to get back to that at some point. And that's why when you brought up, at one point you asked me if we can make a scale project. And I was like, oh, absolutely. This looks like fun. Um, you know, everything comes to time and resources though, right? So,
yeah, no, we're gonna do it. I mean, that's the kind of the project I've been threatening to do for years is bakery scales, and I think when we do it, I'd be super excited to figure out either how to run it as a business or just to give it away and say like, look, anyone who wants to use this, here's exactly how he did it. You can do it for yourself. And I'm open to either one of those things. I think there's enough projects and enough stuff in this space that selling bakery scales is probably not the only way to make money. So yeah, I'm super excited to work on that with you. Let's see. I think 2 questions. If you could go back to, let's say, 2020, when you just maybe midsummer, when you just started Parley Labs, you're just thinking about it. If you go back and whisper in that Brian's ear and say, "Hey, dude, what would you tell that guy?"
Oh, there's so many things that I want to say. I think a lot of it would be, if it's too good to be true, slow it down a little bit, right? Hit the brakes. It's okay to hit the brakes. I think we couldn't have known, what we know today, but
sure,
if we could tell us the outcome, that I think would have saved us a lot of headaches and troubles. But everything that we did with the best information that we had at the time to make sure that we always focus on our customers. Right. And so, one thing I'd also say is grow your customer service team faster, right? Make sure. So when we first started, our thing was about picking up the phone, talking to every customer, responding to every email within a certain amount of time, give everybody that feeling that they're being treated as like a human and the number one person. And that's our goal this year, is to bring that back. Just the scale of it kind of, outgrew us, and we weren't able to keep up with that. So I would say grow that team faster so that we can continue to support the way that we did when we started. And that's what we're going to be focusing on this year.
Yeah. And then you must have learned a thing or two about mental toughness this year. Just, you don't have a choice. You've got to do these things that are really difficult. You got to tell people that you're not going to be able to keep a promise, or you're not going to be able to do the thing you said you're going to do, or that's something you said is going to turn out to be untrue. If you could go back to that same Brian and not be able to change anything, but just say, look, here's something to take you through the times coming ahead. Yeah. What would you tell that guy as kind of inspiration?
Get out of your head, talk to people. Really, because you are your own worst enemy, right?
Right.
When you think something's going to go bad, you can spiral into what ifs and this and that. And the what ifs don't help you make decisions. They do help you understand what potential risks are, but they're not helpful in terms of staying mentally healthy. So,
right.
Talking things out and through and understanding what the real choice is has been helpful, and also just taking a breather, and just not working yourself to death. Hopefully we can do that soon, but I think it's really important to take those breaks, talking through with the team, and even coaches, business coaches have been very helpful for me.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Super cool. So you really approach this like an engineer. Like, how do I get better? I find someone who knows what I don't, and I get them on board. That's pretty rad.
Yeah. I don't know anything. I'm an engineer. I don't, so my thing was, who can I talk to, or what group can I hire that can advise me to not make the worst decisions? Right. And that has been probably, because we grew so fast, it has helped us kind of create these guardrails to keep within.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super excited. So I'm excited, not that you had a really hard year, and I'm guessing this is, unless you had some other personal financial disasters in the last 30 years, this has probably been one of the, if not the hardest year, one of the hardest years of your life. I'm super excited to see what 2022 brings for you guys. And now that you've got, this first kind of battle experience, how you're going to apply that to this space and help grow it. Because obviously you've got this really cool perspective that what drives you guys is growing the network and making the network super healthy. And that is, that's what we all want to see in business owners who are interacting with our space, is folks who give a shit about the thing itself. So super psyched for you guys.
Yeah, us too.
Cool. Anything else? Good.
No. I just wanted to say I really appreciate having me here to talk about it, and really love what you're doing, and our whole team learns a lot from what you put out there, and so does the whole community. So really appreciate
But
it.
there goes the canine alert system. little fucker behind me. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think a lot of that stuff gets inspired by the community itself, and we all just end up being kind of vessels through which this to let my hippie side out, vessels through which this energy flows, and you just kind of do the things you're good at, and you put your shoulder to the wheel where you can put your shoulder to the wheel. And for some people, that's running a big business. And some people, it's running a little business. Some people, it's putting out one hotspot. Some people, it's putting out 30,000. But I think the thing that keeps all of us going and is super exciting, and I'm so glad you're a part of it, is that we have these folks who have this ultimate long distance vision of, hey, we are growing the network and we're all doing this together. And that is a rad thing to be a part of. So yeah, thanks a ton for all of your efforts and for shouldering a lot of the stress that most people would not want to have shouldered. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here today.